Hey everybody.
Sean and Kelly here, Price and Price Group of eXp Realty. What are we talking about today?
Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, Happy New Year.
2024, woo woo, it's going to be a great year.
Yes.
I know this because it started out so bad. I'm going to bring that up all year.
Oh, goodness.
I can't wait for it to come out.
All right, so what are we talking about?
Today we're talking about how we determine the sales price of a home.
Yes.
So we're going to go into how it's not determined
Yes.
and then how it is.
All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to talk about how to determine the sales price of a home from a seller's perspective.
Yes.
And first thing we wanted to clarify is what is market value, okay? Because everybody gets market value and appraised value confused. So market value is technically the value or the price at which a seller is willing to sell a home and a buyer is willing to buy.
Right.
Okay, what it has nothing to do with is a list we're about to go through here.
Yeah.
And market value really has nothing to do with appraised value. If it's in a seller's market, like we've been in the last several years and are going to be in this year, then market value is typically higher than appraised value.
That's true.
And if it's a buyer's market, the other is true. Market value is quite often under appraised value.
Yes.
So,
Yes. All kinds of things. It's not even list price.
No. And that's why you have to have a good agent representing you as a buyer, and just so that you know what the actual market value of that property is going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's dive in. I like talking first about what it's not, to just dispel the but I thought.
Yeah.
I thought. Let's get that right.
The what
Start
not to
getting
do.
the right thinking for 2024.
Or to be positive, because we want to be positive for 2024.
I'm always
This
positive.
is what you do in order to fail at selling your house.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to work for everyone.
I don't know either.
Okay, so these are not strategies. Number one not strategy is the sales price is not the Zestimate.
Yes. The Zestimate, the Redfin estimate, the Realtor.com valuation.
The little postcards you get in the mail that says, hey, your home's worth this. Now, does it ever hit the mark? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sometimes it hits the mark, but that's not like, but my postcard says that it should sell for this, and so your ideas are baloney.
And I will give you a great, just quick example.
Mm-hmm.
We have some clients that bought a home for $890,000. They have completely remodeled this home, and it might be worth upwards of 1.6, 1.7, maybe even 1.8. But Zestimate still has it, or the Zestimate's still in the 800s because they don't know what's been done to the house. So,
that's true. And it can go the other way too, right?
Yep.
Someone could have moved in and there are some situations going on there and the value could have tanked. Zestimate doesn't know that. And how would they, right?
Yep.
It's not that they're a failure, it's just not how this is done.
Yep.
It's also not the seller's opinion.
Yes.
This is a tough one, okay? And I do want to dive into this just a tad,
Okay.
right? And hit on the part where when you're home shopping and you see these houses for sale and you're like, wait, what? That one's listed for $1.2 million when the other one's in the neighborhood for the same price. Everything else I'm seeing online, it's like $875.
Yeah.
Wow, this must have like a whole other house under it, or it's on buried treasure, okay? And in a normal market, with all things being equal, you won't see very many of those because real estate agents were really not going to allow a seller to make such a serious misstep, right?
Yep.
But there are times in a market where we don't have enough houses out there for sale that we do kind of like do our best, but we will list a home when the seller is like, it's this or it's not going on the market. We're kind of like, maybe it will be a quick foot in the door for them to realize, a quick learning lesson for, look, no one is interested, and that'll speed the process because we really need houses on the market. So that's something I want to say.
And we've seen that. We've seen where a seller is like, I really want to get the 1.2 for a $900,000 house. And we explained to them, like, if we took that listing, we would say to you, if you want to try it, let's try it. But this is the criteria. Number of showings, number of offers after showings, and so on. And once we hit that criteria, we do a significant price drop. If they will, now Kelly and I have done this, we've worked with several sellers on this. If they say, no, I am not going to come down, this is the only price I take, we will walk away from that listing because it will not sell out this.
Right. And this is the one where the realtors call, or we call the realtors in such a situation, okay, what is going on? And usually the answer is seller. and we say, enough said.
Understood.
You
Okay.
know, we'll go see it.
All right,
Okay.
so it's not
So it is
seller's
not
opinion.
that.
Yeah.
It is also not, kind of piggybacking on that, what the seller needs to get out of it.
Yeah.
We have a really good example.
Yeah, so a seller might say to themselves, they might say, you know, the next house I'm gonna buy, I need to have $300,000 to put towards it, so I have to get $300,000 out of this house. But let's say that was that $1.2 million house, that's not gonna sell at $1.2 million. So
Right.
what you need to get out of it does not necessarily determine the price that a buyer is willing to pay.
And the other thing too that we've seen happen is we bought it for this amount, we put this much money
Mm-hmm.
into renovations, maybe the renovations weren't the best idea,
Or not, they weren't return on investment renovations.
they were kind of ill-advised or not advised.
Yes.
And so then they're like, but I've put all this money into it, so it's worth this, and that doesn't always work out, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
So a lesson there is, before you go and think you're getting the house ready for sale and you want to do a bunch of renovations, make sure you give us a call, because we can tell you what you should do to get a return for your investment,
Yeah.
what's not worth doing, and what may actually end up costing you money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one came across my desk from the Department of Redundancies a little bit. It was the
Yeah.
break-even number.
Yes.
So it's kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
pretty much. Yeah.
that's
okay.
not a separate
Ignore that
topic.
one. All right. Did we?
Unless your mind sees a break-even number as something different than what we just said, a
Yep.
break-even number as well.
Yep. We've already covered that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Yes.
Yeah. Tell.
My neighbor's house sold for. I'll give you an example.
Do it, Sean.
I will give you an example.
What
right
is your
now.
example? I can't wait.
I drew a blank.
I'm so happy it happened to you.
Yes.
2024 is going to be my year where my brain stays intact and it doesn't miss a beat and yours does. Ha ha, everybody. Okay.
Do we know that because it started off so bad?
Yeah, because you.
Anyway, we're going to end that side.
I was about to go into it.
Okay,
It's going to come when you
we-
least expect it.
Yeah, I know
come
it's
out.
coming. So we do hear this quite often from a seller. We will ask them, you know, what's your opinion on what you think the price of the house will sell for? They say, well, my neighbor's house just sold for blank. And when you get down to it and you look at what the neighbor's house is 25% bigger. It's on a double-sized lot. It's newer. It's been renovated. It's whatever it is. The house is determined by houses that are, or the value is determined by houses that are similar, not just because it's your neighbor.
Definitely your neighbor is going to be an excellent comp.
Yeah.
Really, really excellent, but it's not the only factor in determining the price.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we've hit most of the most.
I want to hit a neighbor perspective real quick.
Okay.
So that's going from the perspective of my neighbor's house sold for this much, and so my house is worth this. Well,
I got something to say too.
if you think about it, we have situations where, especially when you get into Maryland and different areas, where counties will require new housing developments to have single-family homes. They have to have a certain number of townhouses. And in Maryland, Montgomery County, not only do they have to have a certain number of townhouses, they also have to have a certain number of Maryland Housing Authority subsidized houses.
Right.
Those townhouses, compared to, let's say we have a $1.8 million house that's selling, and then you have a townhouse that's market value is maybe $900,000, but is selling for $500,000 because it's subsidized. That's not a like comparison. So you want to be thankful for the fact that just because your neighbor's house sold for this much, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want
don't get so
comparable
sad.
houses. Yes, because it can go the other way as well.
Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
And another thing I was thinking of, let's take our neighborhood, for example,
Yep.
where the houses were built in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Enough time has gone by, and even though I know our floor plan is a mirror image of one of our neighbors and BFFs who were there and experienced what happened on New Year's Eve that started the New Year's off right.
I'm in trouble. This was the first event of the New Year's. Anyway, you
our
said it was
first-
coming. Shh.
I didn't get a kiss it the first time in 25 years on New Year's.
Shame. This is getting cut.
This is because we like our friends so much.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
We have the exact same floor plan, but the houses have been here so long, they've been renovated so many different times that The square footage may have been the same. I know theirs is a little bit bigger because they did something different than we did on the in the mudroom.
They
there's an
extended a
extension and
mudroom
people
into a garage, and
people add. So that's also something to take into consideration.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So let's go into the yes strategies now.
Yeah. So this is what it actually is. Okay. So before we do this, we want to get into a buyer's mindset. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and hopefully you answer them right because we have not practiced this. All right. Let's say you want a computer. You're buying a computer.
Okay.
And
it's not like me, but sure.
I know. That's
I want a computer.
Let's say you're buying a computer.
Okay.
And this computer has everything you need. Okay.
That's easy.
For $1,000. Okay.
Okay.
But I know you. You're a price shopper.
Yeah,
you're going to look around and you're going to start comparing,
true.
Just like buyers for houses are going to compare.
Yeah.
And you go to another store or another website and you see the exact same computer, but it's got double the memory. And it's $1,000. Which one are you going to buy?
The double the memory for $1,000.
Exactly. Okay. So now let's go back to the same analogy. You got this computer for $1,000. That exact same computer that has double the memory that you don't really need is now $1,500. Which one are you going to buy?
The one for $1,000.
Right. So that's how buyers of houses look at properties. They're looking for the most value for the least amount of money, and value is determined by what they want, what they need, and what actually has market value.
Good job.
Yeah. So you have to be aware that when you're going into the market with your house has now become a product. It's no longer your home.
Yeah.
It is a product, and it is compared against other products. The average buyer looks at about 9 houses before they buy. So
yes,
you have to keep that in mind. So the first,
and you are not all there. It's not like there's always a unicorn buyer who shares exactly the taste that you have, and they're gonna come in and appreciate this wackadoodle thing you did. Trust me, I do wackadoodle things, right? But you tame it down,
make it
set it up
to the masses,
and you present your wares to everyone, not just the golden unicorn. You're like kindred spirits.
We've had one of those golden unicorns in all of our transactions over the last 4 years, and it was she knew she was paying above price, but we have had hundreds of non-unicorns.
But she had sparkly, wonderful dust in her eyes, and she's happy. Even whenever we give her new property price analysis, she's like, yeah, I know it's going to take some years. Everyone else's, it's like, hey, great news.
Great news.
It's up. With hers, it's like, you're still not quite there. She's like, it's fine.
I just really like it. So that does not happen often. So do not depend on that unless you want to sit on the market for 1.5 years and probably never find them. Anyway,
even in this market. Okay.
All right. So
it is dependent on active properties.
So that's the competition.
Yes.
Yeah. And keep in mind too, okay, so step number 1 is we have to look at the active properties and see who you're going to be competing against, because you want to position yourself appropriately. You don't want to be the highest priced property in the market.
That's not to say that it won't, at the end of the day, escalate and people will bid up. They will bid up and pay the most for the best property, but it doesn't mean that you want to start there.
That's a good point. So the goal of, you have three things that affect the final sales price of your home.
Maybe more, maybe less.
Maybe less, or maybe more, maybe less. The first thing is your property's location. Second thing is the property's condition. Third thing is property's price. Okay, if the property's not selling, you can change price or condition. You have to determine which one. Okay, so your price. We're talking about price as the primary marketing point in this video. So if you put your price against another house that's the exact same house and yours is $50,000 higher, you're going to drive traffic to this house and help that house sell. You're also going to decrease your exposure. If you put your house here, this house is going to help you sell, and you're going to increase in exposure, create that bidding war, and probably go above this and get to the point that what the market value is.
Right. This is where we get into the nuance of list price versus actual sales price, right? A sales price is the selling price that we're talking about both, right?
Right. We're talking about the list price.
And then what it ends up selling for. There is a nuance there that we can.
And that's a really good point, because the closer you price to the final sales price, the quicker the house is going to sell. And if it's a property in this market sits on the market for more than 14 to 21 days, buyers start thinking there's something wrong, and you start getting lowball offers. All right, yes, strategy number 2.
Okay, it's going to be appraised value and property sold.
Yeah, so recent sales. And the reason this is important, because a property has to sell 3 times. It has to sell when the buyer writes the contract, it has to sell when the inspection occurs,
and when the appraiser comes out.
So you,
more often than not, right? I mean,
Yes.
if it's a cash offer, it's not contingent on
Yep.
appraisal, or if somebody, there are all a few ifs there, but generally speaking,
it
yes.
has to appraise. And here's
Yeah.
here's the thing, you bring up a good point. If there's not an appraisal contingency, well, how do you get rid of appraisal contingencies? You have competition. How do you have competition? You price it appropriately so that the other houses are helping your house sell.
Mm-hmm.
You get multiple offers, buyers start waiving contingencies, and you end up.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed when there's a house that goes on the market in your neighborhood or very close to you, and you start getting calls or letters from realtors and they're like, hey, let's get you on the market? It's because, hey, this is the time to sell. When you have someone right here, this is the time when you're going to really increase the probability of you getting a higher price for
Yep.
your property. So
Especially-
that's why that happens.
Yep, especially if there are multiple offers on that property. That
Right.
means there are buyers that are right there, ready and willing.
They're right there. If
Yep.
they're there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yep.
in review,
Yep.
okay, the two strategies that do matter that you do need to look at are the active properties on the market. Oh, and on the active properties, we forgot to mention this. Active prices are fantasy land. They haven't sold yet. That's why the ones that have sold are important. That one actually says there was a buyer that was willing to buy at that price and a seller that was willing to sell. These properties up here that are active may or may not sell at that price point.
Right.
So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at them.
Yeah, that's where we were talking about list price versus actual
Yes.
sales
Yep.
price.
Yep.
Those are different things.
And that's where we've seen over the last, year-ish, a lot of people keep saying prices are coming down, prices are coming down. It's like, no, list prices have been priced too high, so they're coming down to what the actual market value
Yeah.
was. But the actual market value is increasing.
Yeah, and fair. Now that we have the interest rates coming down, then we've got a situation where we just had a client. They went to see a place. It'd been on the market over 130 days, no offers at all. Great, she's ready to write an offer. She's gotten her pre-approval. We're sitting down. You called the agent and he said, I don't know what happened. It'd been on the market all this time, nothing moving, no interest at all. And then today I've had 3 other calls like yours and they ratified another contract. They were taking it off that morning.
A little bit of a caveat on that. He said there was no interest at all simply because he hadn't received any offers because this property had nuances, but he had 130 showings. So over that 136 days, they had 130 showings, but
interest.
That's right. Because it doesn't matter how many showings you have until
It
somebody
doesn't matter how many
comes
showings.
to the money. Okay.
Because there's
Okay. All right. So that's it. So those are the factors we have to pay attention to: active properties and recently sold. The non-factors
the biggest
are
non-factors that you really need to guard yourself against is but I think it's worth for
Yes.
whatever reasons you have.
Yes.
But Zestimate says.
Yes, that's it.
So those are the two. If you can just wrap your head, Zestimates are great guides, but it's just a guide. Wrap your head around that and work with someone, ding, 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 who really knows your market and what's going on, and you will be good to go.
Okay, so now we're going to get to the market report for the last 7 days and then follow that with the Mortgage Minute with Tatiana. All right, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to this week's 7-day market review. We're going to go over what happened in the past 7 days, which included the New Year holiday, and you're going to see a dramatic effect on what happened over the last 7 days. But before we go into that, I want to tell you that we're starting to feel the buyer activity is starting to pick up. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we went and showed a property that had been on the market for 136 days. I'm sorry, day before yesterday. The property had been on the market for 136 days. The client, we needed to do a little bit of research on that. She was trying to put a bathroom in, so we got her some quotes on that. It took us about 12 hours to get those quotes. And then the next morning, we were ready to write the offer, went to write the offer, and the property was under contract. I talked to the selling agent, and he said it was the strangest thing. That property had been on the market for over 3.5 months. Actually over 4 months. They had over 130 showings on the property, but the buyers just weren't buying it. There were some unique things about the property. And then within the past 2 days, they had received 3 calls from agents wanting to put offers in, and the property went under contract. So we're starting to see these properties, even some that have been sitting through the holidays, they're starting to kind of move real quickly. So from a seller's perspective, If you're thinking about selling, let's get you ready, get you in the market as soon as possible. From a buyer's perspective, if you're thinking about buying, I would jump into the market now to avoid the rush that's coming as we go into the spring. Okay, so let's dive into the numbers and see what the numbers tell us, and we'll go from there. All right, so as always, our orange line is our buyer activity. Let me get my pen here. Buyer activity for the orange line, and then inventory is the blue line. Inventory represents supply. Buyer activity represents demand. Anytime there's more supply than there is demand, then we have a buyer's market. Anytime there's more demand than supply, we have a seller's market. So you can see that both dropped Christmas week. So this was the week of Christmas. Both dropped, and then buyer activity didn't really pick up this last week with the New Year activity. It actually dropped a little bit more, but you'll see that it's what we expected to happen when we hit that New Year mark. Inventory shot up just like it did here. So inventory shot up and buyer activity stayed low, just like it did here. So in the same area, buyer activity went up a little bit on this one, but the inventory shot up a lot higher. So we have a gap. So what does that gap mean? It means that for the last 7 days, we had a buyer's market, just based on more inventory than there was buyer activity. Now, what do I expect to see happen over the next week or two? Is I expect to see this buyer activity is going to start trailing this inventory, because now there's inventory out there for the buyers to buy. So we're going to see this buyer activity spike up, and depending on what inventory does, buyer activity is probably going to be trailing a week behind. But we do expect to see this market trend to start going in this direction, just like it did here. And this one happened even with the higher interest rates. Here we have interest rates coming down, so we expect it to be even more significant. We have already seen ourselves moving towards that seller's market after being pretty stagnant, but over the last probably 2 months, we've been moving towards that seller's market, and I expect to see this number kind of spike up, or this part of the graph spike up as well. So again, buyers, now's the time. Sellers, now's the time. We're about to get into some chaos come spring, assuming the interest rates do as predicted and continue to come down. All right, if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll see you on next week's market report. All right, here we are with Tatiana for our first mortgage minute of the year, and excited to hear what's going on with the mortgage rates and see what they're going to do in 2024, because I know you have that crystal ball. So what's going on?
Yes, and it's a good omen with the whole nice hat. I think that we have good, nice, wonderful things to hear from our favorite mortgage lender.
Yeah, I also have one that says naughty. So when rates will go up, I'm gonna wear that one.
Oh, nice. Okay, throughout the year. That's perfect. Hopefully we won't see the naughty hat at all this year.
No naughty.
All right, I gotta check.
Hi guys, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
So I want to start with actually overview of last year, kind of first.
Okay.
Interest rates doubled from 2022. January, February, they went to 6.5% when they were in force in 2022. And from March to October, we had strong economic data casting double of death of inflation, and Federal Reserve raised the benchmark interest rates another 25 basis points for, from March to October. They kept on doing it, increasing the interest rate. And then at the end of the year, November, December, actually rates start going down. Federal Reserve said that they suggested inflation might be coming into the control after all. So we had pretty good end of the year. And if we can compare 2021, 22, 23, these numbers, letters here, those represent the months, right? So we can see how rates were going in 21, 22, and 23 right here. They dropped to from 8% or 8.5% even to about 6.625, 6.875. So it's a pretty good drop that we had. Prediction for 2024 rates might get down to even below 6%. Okay. When it will happen exactly, nobody knows. They can just predict. but those are the prognosis for the new year.
Can I ask you real quick? So this is what I've been hearing too, is us getting close to that 6% mark, either low sixes or maybe really high fives.
Mhm.
But over the last week, I've heard a couple people, kind of outliers, saying that they may end up getting into the fours. Have you heard anything about that, or think that could be at all possible?
That's what I heard as well.
Okay.
You know, is it gonna happen really? We'll see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. But I try to be more conservative and say it's gonna be below 6. And if it's gonna be in 4, I'll say, well, see, it is below 6. So
Yeah.
right.
You're right either way.
Yeah.
Hedging your bets. I love it.
So what happened the week after the new year? Actually, rates went increased slightly. So we have 6.68%. I guess I had to wear Nautic hat, but
Yeah.
the rates are still good. Looking ahead, experts forecast the rates will decrease again in 2024. And inflation has come down, so the mortgage rates, of course, and we might get so they indicate the Federal Reserve indicates that they might start cutting down the federal funds rate as well.
Okay.
So that's good news for those who has home equity lines of credit, because prime rate that Federal Reserve controls actually affects the HELOCs, home equity lines rates.
Okay.
It has indirect effect on mortgage rates, or first mortgage rates, of course, because when they make comments saying that inflation is going down, that means that interest rates are gonna go down as well, following their commentary.
Okay.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, so that's it. We're still in 6.683 on FHA, it's 6.5. In some cases, again, those are average rates.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit low for some, it could be a little bit higher for others.
Okay.
But average is, what the chart is showing right
Yeah.
now.
Okay. So overall, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah,
though.
that's good
So,
news.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, and we felt that already with
Yeah.
people. I know we're showing a whole lot more, and and we were in contact with you just yesterday. Are you getting a whole lot more mortgage applications here in the last week or so?
People are, starting to apply again. The
Yeah.
end of the year was a little bit slow. I think everybody just took their time to pause and celebrate, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
but now they're regrouping and coming back strong. The 1.5% or more drop in interest rate actually freed up some buying power for people,
Yeah.
and monthly payments went down in average over $300 a month,
Wow.
$350, $370. So that's a good news. What it tells us that more people are gonna again get back to the market. We might get multiple offers again. So I think since it's still January, since it's still new, right before holidays, it is a good time to start getting back into the shopping, house shopping mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before the pendulum swings in the spring back to losing contingencies and losing all the offers and all of that. Now is beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about interest rates or?
No, I'm happy. I'm
Good.
happy. This is such a beautiful note to
Yeah.
start the new year off with.
Okay, so now the next question that we were going to talk about is we want to talk about mortgage insurance.
Yes.
I know you've got a PowerPoint because you are fantastic at doing that. So can you go through mortgage insurance, explain it to us, explain what the options are with that and how that works?
Well, and because a lot of people get confused, with all the terms and with the applications, they're like mortgage insurance and then homeowners insurance, and it's like, what is all this? And so let's just
Dive in there.
let's do it.
Yep. And then one other caveat. A lot of people will spend a year or two building up to get to their 20% down because they're so afraid of that mortgage insurance amount, and it ends up costing them a lot more and appreciation and money being held.
Mhm.
So sometimes that's not the best strategy. So hopefully we can just talk about that a little bit as well.
You read my mind, Sean, because that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Exactly. Okay, so mortgage insurance versus homeowners insurance. Let's just start talking about it. Homeowners insurance is just insurance like you have a car insurance, right? You need to protect your house in case of fire or some other disaster.
Yeah.
Mortgage insurance is insurance that protects lender in case the buyer is in default. And when buyers stop making payments, house goes back to the mortgage to the bank, and it's very costly, so they want to be protected. And when you put less than 20% down, there is a mortgage insurance that is mandatory. On conventional loans, it can be removed once there is 20% equity in the property,
Okay.
or it comes off automatically once there's 22% equity in the house.
Okay.
So yeah, the MI, short for mortgage insurance. And just exactly like you said, people want to save up money to avoid that mortgage insurance, and then they miss out. So let's take a look. I ran some numbers. So again, hypothetical scenario, we have price of 500,000 and somebody's putting 10% down. So they have 50 grand, they're gonna put it down. I ran scenario for 740 credit score. The mortgage insurance on conventional loans works also kind of like a car insurance. When you get car insurance premium, they look at your driving record. The same is here with mortgage insurance. Better credit score, lower premium.
Okay.
And better driving record, lower premium on the car insurance, right? So depending on the credit score, depending on the down payment, and depending on actually how many people are going to be on the mortgage, the mortgage insurance payment could be different. So this is the scenario: 10% down, 740 score.
Okay.
1 year to save up. Okay, so that's a little bit backwards, but okay. So am I one person on a mortgage? Monthly payment is $90 per month,
Okay.
or $1,080 a year for the
Okay.
mortgage insurance. If there are two people, it's a little bit cheaper, $71.25 per month, or $855 a year.
Okay.
So somebody says, okay, well, I don't want to pay this. I'm gonna save up additional $50,000 to actually get to 20%, right? So how long is it gonna take for someone to save up 50,000?
Probably a
Let's
year.
say,
Yeah. If they're fortunate and they can put that much money away. But
Yeah.
for some people, I mean, for a lot of people, that would take a couple years. But a year is a good start.
yeah, so let's say just a year. If probably you're right, couple of years, but let's say it's even 1 year to be very optimistic.
Yeah.
Right.
They're gonna miss out. They don't want to pay $1,000 a year. They're gonna wait to save up 50,000, and they're gonna miss out on appreciation of about 35,000. So let's say if appreciation is 7%. So
Yeah.
in 1 year, the same house is gonna cost 535,000. They actually need to save up more than 50,000 at this point, right? Because 535 is gonna be the price. So
Like
20% down
57,000
is
now they
gonna
have
be
to save
more
up.
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's say this is 10% down. Somebody has only 5%. The monthly MI is going to be higher. So let's look at that scenario with 5% down. So the loan amount 475, probably going to take them about 2 years, let's say, save up
Yeah.
75 plus. The mortgage insurance for one person is $142, which is $3,400 a year, or $110 for two people, and it's $2,700. Actually, not for a year, for 2 years, because we're waiting, right, for 2 years to save up the $75,000.
Right.
we have missed appreciation of about 70,000,
Wow.
Yeah.
if not more than that. So you don't want to pay $3,500 in mortgage insurance, but you're gonna miss out on at least $70,000 in
Yeah.
appreciation.
That's like you come into me and saying, hey, I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. So you ask me, you say, give me a check for $70,000. So I give you the check for $70,000, and then you give me a check for $3,420. It's like,
Exactly.
is that a good deal? It's
Yeah,
like, no,
not a
I'm
good
not doing
trade.
that. That's not a good trade at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in some cases, mortgage insurance is tax deductible too. That's another thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
You need to talk to tax advisor, of course, to make sure that in your particular case, it is
Yeah.
tax deductible. But if it is, you're gonna basically pay even less than
Yeah.
142 a month.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good example. And
Mhm.
that's where emotion versus logic plays in. It's like, and that's the beauty about real estate is
Right.
everything can be based on numbers and logic. So I think this is a great explanation.
I think it is too. And to hit the point again that, all you need, let's say they only put the 10% down, and all they need is the time it takes to build the equity and another 10% while they're in the home. And then they can get the BPO or an appraisal and get that removed. So
Yeah.
it's removable, it's a temporary thing. So it just really makes no sense to not get into a house now, just because of mortgage insurance.
Yep.
Exactly. And if rates will go down later, they're gonna refinance anyways, and they reach 20% equity at that point.
Yeah. And most people are going to sell a house within 5 to 7 years. So they're only at max, they're going to pay, if they follow the average, they're going to pay 7 years worth of that mortgage insurance. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think the numbers make total sense to not worry about that mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
I agree.
I didn't realize though that it was different with more
didn't
people
either.
on the mortgage. So
Yeah.
that was cool to know. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes-
Yeah. I guess they think that when there are two people, less chance that they're gonna foreclose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that
and I think that as we say pretty much on every, what's my phone ring next?
Nothing.
As we say on pretty much every mortgage minute, the best thing to do is talk to the lender. So they need to talk to you, let you run the numbers and give them the scenario so that they can figure out what their best option is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it. How can people reach you?
They can call me at any time, 571-245-3000.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you. We will see you on next
Thank
week's Mortgage Minute, and everybody have a great week.
Yep. Bye.
All right.
Have a great week. Bye.